was amateur at times, whereas this year they've really focused on that.
Nothing is as exciting as A-League finals.
I wasn't built for ripping my shirt off.
Like, that is peak.
One comes in, does well, gone. Next one comes in, does well, gone.
As we were watching that, Brosque looked disgusted.
Special. Unbelievable! This, ladies and gentlemen, is football.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Total A-Leagues. I'm Vince Regari. Finals time, lots to talk about, and to help me do that, Tommy Orr and not Daniel McBreen. He is at an undisclosed location, so we have brought back the A-League guest marquee contract situation for the great Alex Brosque.
Always happy to fill in, mate.
Good to have you on the desk, mate. As I said, lots to talk about. Finals time. The top six is cemented. We know the pathways that are possible on the road to the grand final, and the two games coming up this weekend, I have no idea what's going to happen.
No. Yeah.
So we'll talk through all of that. But to start with, Thomas, give me your moment of the final round, please.
Yeah, there was a lot to pick from on the weekend just gone, but I had to go with the Jets. I think winning 4-0 against the Mariners in that F3 derby, it was a bit of a celebration the whole evening. Obviously, the trophy being presented to them, but 20,000 fans there. Clayton Taylor, Eli Adams, they have absolutely immense in this game. Will Dobson, I think. There's been a little bit of a concern around the Jets in the last month. Are they starting to wobble? And I think this put to bed any concerns that anyone has. They were at their best in this game, and we'll go into finals full of momentum, Brosque.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly there, where their form heading into this game wasn't great, for all they've done in the season. And off the back of that, Tommy, a huge congratulations to Mark Milligan, the coaching staff there, and everyone. I mean, look at the scenes here. It's been a while since we've seen a Newcastle crowd like this. But to do it against their rivals as well, against the Mariners, a big win heading into the finals, sets them up perfectly, and probably a win that they needed. But again, to see then this presentation, never happened before in Newcastle. The fans as well sticking around, the words from Millsy to the crowd and all the people there in Newcastle, great scenes.
Yeah, you just said it, I think, as well. You've got to say Millsy, they came ninth last year, and what he's done with this group of players, I think a lot of these players are playing unrecognisably well. I think you've got to say from what they've done earlier in their careers, and it's just amazing to see. And a coach in his first year, I think that Millsy's, all the signs are he's going to have a very good coaching career. Yeah,
and a deserved week off as well, so we'll get back into the Jets discussion next week. Brosque, give us your moment of the round, please.
Mine came all the way over in Perth. It was an incredible goal by young Despotovski. Now, I mean, the way he strikes his ball, Tommy, as an attacking player, this is a dream scenario where off your chest, the ball's bouncing and you can just put your foot right through it. But very rarely do they come off as sweet as that and end up in the corner. So a great moment for him, for Perth and their fans as well. It was a good crowd there, considering the season they've had. But hopefully some more to look out for this next season.
Yeah.
There was quite a few good goals on the weekend. You've got to say, Bratsy scored an amazing half volley as well. Yeah. There was quite a few. I think the goal of the week was pretty hotly contested on that.
And that wasn't the only shirt-off yellow card. A broader discussion on that to come later in the show. But my moment is Luka Jovanovic at the death for Adelaide United. A really important goal, which has given them Asian Champions League elite football and a spot or a week off this week and heading into these major semi-finals. But it's all about this for me. To take the shirt off, clearly consumed by the moment and be unaware that you're already on a yellow card. I think there were some teammates letting him know what the situation was, and then to cop that red and to still give it the big ones like that from Luka just puts him straight into the A-League, the peak A-League Hall of Fame for me, in a very good way. I just think that was amazing. Ayrton Andrioli won't be stoked when he starts to figure out his starting 11 for the first leg of the semi-finals.
Ironically, he was on the bench in that game, though, and came on to score the 2 goals. So I think that end of that game, that is peak. There's not been many last final rounds of the regular season I can remember being as dramatic as that in terms of, potential red card, flashpoint, City getting an attack, and all the, the fallout of that in terms of the first to 6 placings and everything. And you could see how much it meant to Andrioli as well. He was so emotional when he scored. You could tell he didn't know what to do. Yeah. When it zoomed in on it, I just think amazing scenes. And great for Adelaide. I think Jets coming first and Adelaide coming second with all the youngsters they're bringing through. It's good for Australian football that happened.
Yeah. And something on an individual level from Jovanovic there, that goal gave him a share of the Golden Boot, tied with Sam Cosgrove. Let's have a look at the leaderboard as it finished at the end of the regular season, and volume of goals, I think, across the board this season, obviously lower, I think, compared to last season. So you're looking at, one of the lowest totals to win the Golden Boot, but a pretty broad spread across the board. And I don't know what the multi would have paid if you picked these 5 to top it at the end. But this is the beauty of when there's big turnover in the league, and you wonder, as I did and many others did at the start of the season, gee, we're losing a lot of good players. Who's going to replace them? People always step up. And you see there some of the examples. And Eze, the talk is he's going to be leaving Wellington, which is a shame, but I don't know if anyone expected him to have the impact that he did. And Jovanovic, I think we're all hoping for that, because there was room for him to grow as a striker with Archie Goodwin leaving Adelaide United. But half a Golden Boot for him.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you win the days of the McLaren and Berisha and probably yourself, where you would be like in a 3-way race for the Golden Boot, you seem to get all the goals for your teams. Whereas now it's more a case of, like, you look at the Newcastle Jets, I think they had 6 or 7 players who scored more than 5 goals. So it's, they're sharing the load a lot more. So that's quite a distinct difference to seasons gone by, and probably why the final number's not as high as we're used to.
Yeah. And let's have a look at the top 6 at the end of the regular season as well. We know the score here. Obviously, Jets and Adelaide, as we spoke about, get the double chance. Not the double chance, sorry, the week off. And it's 3rd versus 6th, 4th versus 5th in the elimination finals this weekend. As I mentioned, I can't split them. But it's a good moment to just, for me at least, reference the fact that there's often debate at this time of year about the structure of the A-League and how we crown our champions, and other competitions don't have final series, and we should get rid of the final series and try and make the Australia Cup knockout stages have a similar level of importance. For me, I hate hearing that, because it sort of disregards how good we've got it, I think, as a country in football. Like, I think we've genuinely got the best of both worlds, in the sense that if you call the Premier's Plate now the minor premiership, people look at you funny in Australian football. It's a no-no. You're not allowed to do that anymore, and rightfully so. The Premiers get their moment in front of their home crowd. Everyone who's been watching knows that they've won a significant trophy. And then we go again. And for me, the teams that win the Premier's Plate and the Grand Final stand out a little bit more as even stronger champions. Like, when I look through the record books, the teams that have done that are like, righto, well, that was a hell of a team, because not only did they do it consistently throughout a season, but they also did it again when it mattered as well, according to our system. So I reckon, Tommy, if you were redesigning any European league for whatever reason, you'd probably have finals.
Oh, well, for me, and Brosque, you've played in a lot more than me, but nothing is as exciting as A-League finals. It's the games, the significance of the games, and particularly when you're talking about a big blue, or it's do or die, like, the stakes could not be higher. I mean, the crowd, everyone gets behind it. It's just the excitement it generates for the league. I think that, just the regular season doesn't have that about it. So for me, I think it's the perfect setup. I think the difference between coming 2nd and 3rd is quite significant in the current format. And for that reason, Auckland will be absolutely kicking themselves that they threw it away at the last hurdle. And, I think they are going to have a real fight on their hands to get through this tie. But overall, the final system, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah. We'll come to them in a bit, Brosque.
Okay.
But let's dive straight into the Big Blue, because I want to get your thoughts on how Sydney have ended up here playing an away game against Melbourne Victory. There's been times throughout this season where you can see it's there, what they've been trying to do, the players they've assembled. Sometimes when Sydney FC's attack clicks, it's like, righto, well, this is a hell of a team. But at other times, I just don't know. I just don't know. And it's fantastic to see this goal on the weekend from Ben Garuccio on his non-preferred right foot. But Brosque, I've never been able to get a read on them properly this season, and I still can't.
And it's hard given the quality that they have. I think, look, the one area that they picked up significantly from last season was defensively. Last year, the way they were conceding goals, was amateur at times, whereas this year they've really focused on that. They're a much better defensive unit all around the park. But then, and I don't know if that's the problem, but they've almost sacrificed then their attacking intent, and I feel like a lot of times with that reliance to drop in and play deep and absorb pressure and be as defensively strong as they are, it's hurting their attack, because when they're getting the ball, so often it's been an over-reliance on Joe Lolly. Get him the ball because he can create something out of nothing, and so often he does, but in games like this, and they're almost trying to do that with Toure on the weekend, trying to isolate him one-on-one, but Sydney's build up, they keep possession well, they move the ball around well, they've got the most passes in the league, is all very slow. You look at your Adelaides, Newcastles, even Melbourne Victories, when they win possession, they they go, and they go in numbers, 3, 4, 5 players in attack, getting in the box, and there's always options. When Sydney win the ball, it's too slow to get forward, and by the time they do, it needs to be the perfect cross or the perfect sequence of play to end up getting a chance. I feel like Stamatopoulos hasn't seen enough good opportunities to get him the goals that we know he can get. So yeah, they're just really struggling to go forward at the moment.
And I think if you look at Patrick Kisnorbo, then you look at his coaching style and what his strengths are. He gets his team very disciplined. They work hard. Free-flowing attacking footballs, normally it takes him time to develop that. So I think that coming in with 6 games left, he was always going to have a bit of a battle on his hands to try and turn this around. And you spoke about this on the coverage on the weekend, actually. You're on the game. So Arslan was playing as a striker, and it just feels like they haven't found the right combination, because for me, he's not a number 9. So all of a sudden, you've lost that ability to hold the ball up and bring your influential midfielders into play. They're trying to trialling him in the midfield up front. Toure as a wide player, you touched on him, but I think one-on-one he was pretty ineffectual on the weekend. I think the only player I can say that's been a constant threat has been Quintal, and he had a little bit of an injury cloud a few weeks ago, and he's just coming back from that. So, but I think aside from him, there's no real player who's willing to take a player on or break open the game to what you're talking to. And I think that coming up against Melbourne Victory, unless they find a way to be more free-flowing in the front third, this could be a difficult game for them.
Yeah. Couple of stats that sum up, I think, everything you boys have just spoke about. Their top goal scorer for the season is Quintal and Toure tied on only 5 goals. So neither of them an out-and-out striker. And both have seen sort of intermittent periods of minutes. And then Sydney also haven't beaten a top 6 side since November. Wow. The good news for them was that was victory, and it was 3-0. But this is a different kettle of fish, Brosque, don't you think? Down there, especially when it looks like Juan Mata is over his elbow injury, could start, probably should start, I would imagine. If I'm Arthur Dillez, you've got to have your best players on the park, a huge game, and a guy who's played in many big games before. This will be his first taste of A-League finals. I'm pretty sure he'll be ready for it. But how do you see the victory side of the equation, and will they be happy that they're facing this current version of Sydney FC?
Well, I think they will be. You look back at the last time they played down in Melbourne as well, and I was down there, and it was, the first half followed a similar pattern to a lot of Sydney games. Very tight first half, not much happening, and then the floodgates just opened. They got 1-2, ended up 4-0. It's got a weird feel, this game, heading into it. I think if Sydney don't start strong, it could end up getting, depending on how Melbourne start, because their attack, again, we're talking about that, it's more free-flowing, so that battle there, Victory attack, Sydney defence, is going to be a huge one, because I think, Victory at the moment, the way they're attacking with Mata coming back in, that's just going to lift everybody. But the options that they have, when I look at Victory's attack, there are more players there that concern me and worry me from a Sydney point of view than the other way around.
Yeah. Tommy, don't you think it's an interesting juncture for both of these clubs as well in a broader sense? Like, the story of the A-League for the last few years for me have been teams like the Mariners and the Jets who have been able to make, magic happen with scrap parts essentially. Yeah. And then throw in, I guess, Melbourne City, who have those resources on a greater level than Sydney and Victory. And so you've sort of got 2 of the, the traditional power clubs of the league trying to figure out where they fit in this new order where everyone's going youth and there's a little bit more ingenuity at some of the clubs that we wouldn't regard as big clubs. Yeah. They're finding their feet a little bit and not always sort of, finding sure footing in that sense.
Exactly. I think that it only proves the argument that you should give young players a chance. And I think that's exactly what Adelaide and Newcastle have done. They've given young players a chance. And I think at times this season, Victory and Sydney FC, you could potentially accuse them of not doing that enough when the older or the foreign players haven't performed. They've not been willing to take them out of the starting lineup. But at the same time, I think when both of these teams have been good this season, they've been very good, but they just haven't been consistent. Yeah. So which version of these teams are you going to get this weekend? Ultimately, that's going to decide the game.
Yeah. And Brosque, you've played in plenty of Big Blues and you've watched plenty of Big Blues since you stopped playing. Is this rivalry still one of the... You can debate whether it's 1 or 2 up. It's probably ahead of the Sydney derby these days, to be honest, just because of the decline of the Wanderers over time. The Big Blue rarely disappoints.
It doesn't. Again, it's the 2 biggest cities going at it, and arguably as well the biggest club. So I think there's always so much at stake. They tend to meet in these types of big fixtures. You look this season, Sydney won a very dominant game, 3-0, then Victory, 4-0, and then 2-2 was the last game, and this is the game here. It's such a good fixture to be a part of. Whether you're a fan, whether you're a neutral player, it's all. There's always excitement. There's always feeling. You can feel it. I think for the players as well, a lot of them actually prefer this game than the Sydney derby. And again, in a high stakes game, semi-final, it doesn't come much bigger.
Yeah, Tommy, if you're PK, what are you doing about Mata assuming he starts? Like, are you assigning someone to him to guard him and sort of shut down like lanes to him? Is it as simple as make him be quiet and you're on a winner with victory?
Obviously, you need to be aware of him and the positions he takes up, but I think that with players like him, the best way to address him is to cut it off at the source and to basically stop the ball getting to that part of the pitch. And if you press properly and choose your moments and try and keep the spaces really compact, that's the best way. I think if you just go man on man, for example, often that will be at the detriment of your own game plan. And it's really hard when you get the ball then to just do your normal things. So I don't expect them to give him more attention than obviously being aware of him, but just making sure that you do everything right in terms of minimising the times he can get the ball, actually.
Yeah. On to the other elimination final this weekend, Melbourne City away to Auckland FC. Two teams that, I can't remember our previews, but these two would have been in and around 1 and 2 for most people's predictions for the season and how it's gone. Auckland occupied one of those spots for most of the season, let it slip late. They'll be really disappointed about that. City also kind of still a bit like the other two teams we just spoke about. I can't understand them, can't get a read on them. I still feel like on any given day they can beat any team.
Yeah.
But they've just got a little bit of brittleness about them, Brosque, and we saw that, I suppose, on the weekend as well.
But we did with Auckland at the moment. I mean, it's going into the finals. They're nowhere near where they want to be, and I think they've been trying. So you look at the Jets last week, that 4-0. It really set that benchmark for them heading into the finals. The Auckland, it just hasn't been there for a number of weeks, and again in this game here, twice coming from behind, and their quality is definitely there. I, for one, think they're a much better unit than they were last season. A lot more depth, a lot more quality going forward as well, but. Last year, their defence was incredibly strong. This year, they're conceding a lot more goals and in odd ways as well. So it is worrying, the form that they take going into the finals. And, when you look at the City then, with the sort of team, they've got players coming back. Atkinson, Arzani, Teague, potentially all three of those coming back. Leckie getting more minutes. It's a tough place to be. Look, they're strong. Even their home form. Last season, they were very strong at home. This year, not so, and they haven't won in their last 4 home games as well. That last one against the Mariners with the premiership on the line as well, that one for me was a real head-scratching moment where you think something's just not clicking for them at the moment. So, look, I mean, they've got experience. They've been in the finals before, Corica many times. So I think they'll be ready for it, but it could go either way this one.
And I think you look at the game on the weekend, they obviously showed that resilience that we've associated with them, just the ability to come back from behind a few times, even though they weren't playing well. But in the first half, they had one shot against Sydney FC, and it was Cosgrove from about 30 metres out, some speculative effort. With the ball, they are not anywhere near where they have been at their best. And when you look at someone like De Vries being out, that was such a clear avenue to goal for them. Obviously, Cosgrove being in the box, De Vries delivery. But not only that itself, but the second phase, even if the ball got cleared, they would always have midfielders on the edge of the box, and that would kind of be the starting point of their attacks. With no De Vries, where are the goals coming from? I think this is a team where there's no clear way outside of set pieces and long throws and these types of things, which we'll talk about later, but no clear kind of plan of how to score a goal in the absence of the likes of Brimmer and the absence of De Vries, who are such pivotal players for them. Yeah.
So the form lines here we've referenced. Auckland have only won 1 of their past 7. City have won 5 of their last 7. But Brosque, they've been to Auckland twice and lost 3-0. How do you expect them to front up for this challenge? Different story, different stakes, and they're coming in feeling pretty good about themselves, despite, of course, the result against Adelaide. They've got players. The standout for me is Yunus, who are just like on fire at the moment.
Yunus has been in incredible form. We highlighted how well he's been playing recently, but again, the players that I just mentioned coming back. Melbourne City finals time always go up another gear as well. They had a lot to contend with this year with the the travels throughout Asia, injuries, and they're still there, and they're a team that no one wants to face. I think at the end of the day, and it's funny how one game can change anything. The form that you mentioned there, if they'd won on the weekend, beaten Adelaide, held on at that 1-0 at that point there, they go on 5 in a row win streak heading into the finals, 6 out of their last 7. You don't get better form than that. But what was it, 10, 20 minutes, and that changed everything. Momentum goes down, their heads are down at the end of the game. there's plenty of experience in that change room to bounce back from what happened. But now all of a sudden, instead of hosting a final, they're going away to Auckland, which will be a tough game.
You just spoke about it, the ACL. How many times this year did Melbourne City go to the likes of Japan or go to China and just nab a result? And just that they have that experience in the team. Atkinson back in. I think Delbridge, I don't think we've seen the best of him since he's joined City, but he's a very good player, as we know. But, Azani, Teague, I think they'll all come back into the starting lineup. Lecky will probably get more minutes. These players know how to win, and they won't be intimidated playing in Auckland. They've probably played in much more intimidating places, to be honest. So for me, I know it's brave call, but I think Melbourne City's going to win this game.
Yeah, interesting. In other Kiwi news, the Wellington Phoenix have appointed Chris Greenacre as their coach on a permanent basis. Obviously did a fantastic job as the interim coach after Giancarlo Italiano's departure. Had 13 points in his 8 matches in charge. Brosque, for me, this is a safe appointment in the best way, I would say. Like a club icon, you could say. Chris Greenacre knows the club, knows the country, knows the league, the setup, what's required. This makes sense to me.
It does. Look, we've seen it over the years with a lot of clubs do that, with Monty at the Mariners, turning to players who know the club inside out, Corica at Sydney as well. I think it works. They understand the landscape, the players. He's a young manager as well, so I think we're seeing that in the league. A lot of younger managers as well, understanding that, the tactical side of the game is so big and important these days. How you manage young players, all equally important. And I think what we saw from him and his side in the, last few rounds is encouraging, so I think he deserves opportunity to stay on.
Yeah, interesting off-season ahead for them. There's going to be a lot of turnover, I think, when you look at the players who are on and off contract. Eze, the big one. Players like that don't grow on trees, at least in terms of A-League budgets. So,
and Nick's the worst defensive record in the league, so I think they've got some big moves they need to make in the off-season in that department as well.
At both ends of the field, for sure. Speaking of young coaches, this is Patrick Kisnorbo talking to James Dodd about his influences in coaching.
Some managers you've learnt not what to do. Some managers you've learned a lot of things. Managers you've learned, how do they sort of speak to the people up top. Managers that you work on the field. I've always been a big advocate of Eric Mombarts, and then you have Warren Joyce, who coached a lot of big name academy players that are obviously world class players now. Ian Holloway was one of the best. He showed me that as a manager, if you work hard, you can achieve things. When he got employed, our training went to another level. And what a great man. Honestly, he could mix it with both. He could be that man management side and the softer side, but on the pitch, he was nuts. And you know what? I loved every moment of it. Neil Warnock was a bit different. Not too much on sort of the training side, but more on the man management side. But also he had a way with players that they loved because, he would give days off or he would give time away. And you can't fault it for that because it worked for those type of players. Where I was more on the Ian Holloway side where, I wanted to work, regardless if I was in the team or not, to always keep improving.
Good stuff from Pico there, and an important reminder, I think, as we were due for one, Nalene, as we welcome you back to the desk, Eric Mombart's style icon.
Oh, yeah.
Guy had drip.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember us discussing that. But yeah, well, let's kick it off with a feel-good story of the week, and that was in Adelaide United legend Casio. His 2 sons, they played together for MacArthur in Enrique and Bernardo. So in the final game of the season, they were on the pitch at the same time for 12 minutes, and we saw the younger brother, 17 years old, Enrique, set up his big bro. I mean, this is the first time we've seen 2 brothers contribute to the same goal in A-League men's history. How special is this moment and for the family?
Well, first one in there going for the hug as well for the celebration, which is always nice to see. But
I thought Bernardo could have given a bit more to the brother there. Not that the assist was particularly crafty.
Yeah.
But, just like, oh, bro, thanks. Yeah. And then
How many times have they linked up in the backyard, I'm sure.
The question.
So, it's obviously awesome to see. But to be honest, there hasn't been too many brothers playing the same team. I think Toure at Adelaide, I'm sure there was an overlap there a little bit. But how many other brothers have there been, let alone brothers contributing for the same goal? Petrados for Newcastle, that's about it.
The problem is, I think, with the Toures in particular, they're staggered in terms of age.
Yeah.
So, and the story has been one comes in, does well, gone. Next one comes in, does well, gone. And then Musa went quicker before we could even say he did well in the A-League. So hopefully they all link up one day for the Socceroos.
Were any of your brothers good enough to play?
I played against my brother. He was with the Mariners and Jets youth teams back in the day. And I played against him in a pre-season game. I was at Sydney, he was at Bankstown. And I actually almost gave him an assist the other way around.
Did you go in for the hug?
Just a moment. Like, I remember how special it was for me, just sharing a pitch. You talk to, being in the backyard or on the street, kicking the ball around together. To be on an actual football field together, playing for something is incredible. So the hug is what got me. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. We can't wait to see them back next season as well. But Tommy, you touched on this earlier, long throws. It worked for Auckland in their 2-2 draw against Sydney FC. And the first Skajuma my goal, it was started from that long throw in. So I actually asked Steve Corica about whether they've been paying particular focus and attention to it in training. So let's hear in what he has to say.
But the first goal he scored is interesting. It came from that long throw in. Has that been something you guys have been working on?
Yeah, we work on that a lot. Obviously, we got Cosy, obviously 6'5", so we try and use that to our advantage. And obviously, got a good flick on today, and great goal by Guillermo, and got the second one as well. Similar situation to the back post, and then he's in the right positions to score.
Well, as we were watching that, Brosque looked disgusted conceding that soft set piece. But in terms of long throws, this is something that teams have really taken to, and clubs around the world have brought in specialist sort of coaches to really start to focus on it, even in the Premier League. We heard Corica say you've got someone like Cosgrove in the goal with that presence. Why wouldn't you utilise it? Do you feel like more teams should be using it in games?
Game's gone.
I don't think it's just as the game evolves. It's just another piece, another way coaches are trying to find a bit of an edge. I don't see it as an issue, something that should be stopped. It's another form of a set piece. No one is being recruited because they've got great arms and can throw into the box. I mean, let's be clear on that. But I think if you've got that sort of player who can get the ball in the box, that's where goals are scored at the end of the day. So for me, it just becomes a piece where opposition coaches need to coach against it, and try like a corner. A corner's back in the day would have been as simple as getting it in the box. Then all of a sudden there's blocking and holding and all of that, and you've got to coach how to stop that. Long throws will be the same.
And I think with long throws as well, it's not only about scoring directly, it's always about the second phase, because it's so hard to get to clear it, sufficiently, because there's no power on the ball. It's always about, a scrap, where's the ball going to land, and it just creates a bit of chaos. So I completely agree with Brosque. And I think the other way that we see kind of throw-ins used as a bit of a weapon is because you can't be offside of a throw-in. So it forces the defence to retreat. And I think that kind of makes it an interesting kind of thing that maybe teams don't take advantage of enough, I think.
We're all looking as well in the green room before of a clip of PSG and how they use their long throws as well, which is not in the mixer to a big bloke, but in the field of play into space so that a player can run onto it, which is high risk, high reward. I don't love this, to be honest, but I didn't fall in love with football because blokes can throw the ball long.
Are you siding with your mate Ange Postecoglou?
Ange Postecoglou does not like this, but I would have arrived at that view regardless, to be honest. But I think I agree with Brosque in that the game will work it out eventually tactically. There's always trends in football, and the next trend is a reaction to the previous trend. And it's up to coaches, I think, at the moment to figure out, all right, well, some teams are doing this. What's the response to that to make that ineffective or to capitalise on the weaknesses that teams leave when they set up this way?
Yeah, well, would like to see it utilised more. It clearly works when you've got a big man striker like Cosgrove in the box. But there was another feel-good story as well over the weekend. So we did see Perth Glory's record games holder, Josh Risdon, he announced his retirement from football, a really wholesome moment. Now, interestingly enough, he's actually been studying a degree in teaching, and he's going to be pursuing that after his football career. So I'm intrigued to hear from the three of you, Vince included. What would you be doing outside of football, even life after football, in terms of a career off the pitch?
Still looking, to be honest. So if anyone's got any jobs out there, I'm interested.
Hit him up on LinkedIn.
But that's a bit harsh. Vince is a qualified journalist. Brosque has I don't know. Why don't you tell me? You're in a different position to us. This is your profession. Our profession's all over for us.
And to be clear, if it wasn't for my profession being, journalism, I definitely would have been a professional footballer. There's no doubt about that, especially for people who've seen me play. But I gave it up because I just love writing.
And your knees.
Yeah, that too. There's no lies detected there in anything I've said.
Look, growing up and as I got older, I was always a skinny kid. So this body's not built for being on a construction site. So I can clearly say I wasn't going into that line of work. But I don't know, I did some work experience with my mum as an accountant. Got my certificate 4 at TAFE as well, which I actually didn't pass that. But so that's
all right. You had a go.
Look, I don't know if it's being a Libran. I like to balance the books and things. I don't know, but I'm good with numbers, so that's probably where I would have. Don't know whether I would have been good at it, but
yeah, there you go. So something interesting that happened that has become the norm is players getting penalised when they take their shirts off celebrating. So a certain Luka Jovanovic, he scored the 98th minute winner for Adelaide United in a very dramatic final match of the season to ensure that Adelaide sealed second spot. Now, he's feeling the emotions, feeling the vibes. He takes his shirt off. But the funny thing about this, he got a second yellow card just less than a minute after receiving his first one. Should players be punished for taking off their shirts when celebrating? I think it kills a bit of the vibe.
You guys do the case for the affirmative before I poop the party, all right?
Well, we were asking earlier why the rule was brought in the first place, because I don't see a big issue with it. I think it's... I, for one, would never have done it, but again, I wasn't built for ripping my shirt off and showing everybody, my body. But I think it's great. You're right, it adds to the atmosphere, it adds to the moment. I mean, Johnny Aloisi ripping off his shirt, I know that's a specific... doesn't come much bigger in terms of moments, but when a player scores and it's a big goal like that, I got no issue with it.
Game's over there, though. He didn't get a yellow, I don't think, John.
No, that's true.
Full time, boom, you can do what you want.
That's true. I agree. I think there's no harm in it, and there's so many things with VAR now where that beauty of the moment of scoring a goal is kind of taken away, and I think that's just another one where it would be such an easy win with no negative repercussions if they just changed that rule.
And that's the thing, Thomas. I think there would be some... I completely agree. I would like to be on that side, but I understand why they brought the rule in. Because if you just let it happen, you're going to have... You know what? This World Cup coming up is in the America, and it seems like FIFA have done everything possible to Americanise the World Cup.
Yeah.
Why don't we have NFL-style goal celebrations that are highly coordinated? You can bring your props in, you can take your shirt off, you can do whatever. But I think the rule was brought in to just keep a lid on over-exuberant celebrations, time wasting.
On fun, basically.
On fun. And, Gianni Infantino says that FIFA is the official provider of happiness to the world. It might be IFAB that is the reverse, to be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah. But it's there to protect sponsors, to stop people from putting political messages and all that sort of stuff. And now I feel like an absolute dud for bringing down the vibe.
Yeah, buzzkill.
That's what on
We're
earth,
used to it. It's fine.
Yeah, all good. All right, we're leaving it there this week. Thank you, Nalin. Thank you, boys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week on Total A-Leagues.